All right, so we're back, and I told you I wasn't going to introduce my guest because you guys should already know who it is. Part of the Blue Wire family, somebody I've worked with a long time. What's up, Ugly?
Kenny King Jr. All too familiar voice, man. I love our conversations, man. It's been a while. It's off seasons, kind of warming up now. It's starting to feel, like football season's around and getting excited.
It's one of those things where I hate this period of time because there's nothing going on. Up until about right now, you start seeing players get released. You see players get franchise tagged. You see players, get locked up on new contracts, new extensions, things like that. You see trades or the preliminary trades that could always get vetoed, a la Roger Saffold back in the day. And, we look at it, and it's also the time where the NFL gets the compensatory picks. And, once again, the Raiders don't. Right. The Raiders don't get any picks. But I did some digging, and I was looking at it. And did you know that the teams that got the picks, all those players came to us? Most of them. Obviously, Tom Brady was supposed to come to us and get a stake in the team, but he didn't.
I wonder if he still has ownership in a house. That's great.
I don't know.
Anyways.
But yeah, so there was Vic Beasley, there was Nick Kwiatkowski, Malik Collins, Jeff Heath, Jason Witten, Carl Nassib, and Marcus Mariota. All those players ended up coming to the Raiders. So all those players that other teams got picks for, we got two guys that performed. Actually, I'd say three guys that performed pretty well in games. Marcus did a good job in the Chargers game. Kwiatkowski was a beast all season, and Jeff Heath pretty much owned the Chiefs.
Yeah, sometimes I don't know. I mean, in past years, I've always been waiting for comp picks to come out and be like, "Come on, give the Raiders one." And of course, it never happens. And this year, I have a little bit of, I guess, a different tune about it because I don't want to say I'm sick of draft picks, because whenever the draft comes around, I'm be excited to see who we pick and see what they turn into. But
yeah,
I'm in a phase right now where I just feel like you never know what you're going to get out of these young guys. Like, they could have all the talent in the world. What are they going to turn into? And with almost like no college football this season, with no really, I mean, there's still, I mean, the visits and the meetings are still going to be very limited compared to what they were, 2 years ago. So do I trust it? I feel like it's already been a crapshoot in the draft. Now it's even more of a crapshoot. And I don't know, just like my whole attitude, we're both obviously very positive, and we always see the glass half full with the Raiders. But I don't know what it is this offseason. It's taken until this point, I think, in the offseason for me to kind of get excited again, just because after that second straight kind of crumble at the end of the season, I was kind of like, I felt like I just needed time to just sit there and like actually dwell on it and see, like, I guess just see what it turned into. And I feel like the Raiders it was kind of a slap in the face because now they're making a lot of moves and resetting, I think, pretty hard and harder than they were in the past. They're forced to create a lot of cap space because they know the way the team is now, it's not just add a couple pieces and be good to go. We're turning rocks over, and I think it's going to come out, for the best.
Yeah, I mean, they're making some moves, and I think that some of the notable moves that they've made is they've made some big moves on the offensive line. And now I know the Raider fans are freaking out. We got rid of Gabe, we got rid of Richie, we got rid of Trent. What does this look like for the Raiders? And one thing that we have to focus on is that aside from Gabe, Richie only played a handful of games. Trent only played a handful of games in his tenure here. And, when Gabe was here, while, I have the utmost respect for Gabe and, everything that he did for the Raiders, and I think he definitely earned his contract. He may have gotten a little prematurely and then may have attributed to us not getting Mac, but I won't get into that. But, we look at Gabe's contract, and the writing was kind of on the wall that Gabe was going to be gone. We thought last year.
Yeah, it definitely was. In question last year. You're right. And I'm glad you brought that up because you even talked about a little before we got on that these guys, and even though they were our starters and they were the core of our offensive line, they've been those five guys, they've been our starters for the last 2 years. And how many times did we actually see these guys, all five of them, play a full game together as a unit?
Yeah.
So whenever you have an offensive line that's top one or top two paid in the NFL, you're going to expect a lot more, I don't know, consistency from them. And it just wasn't there. And Gabe, I felt like, had a pretty good bounce back, still a pretty big cap number. I could still see them bringing him back Of course, that's going to be up in the air because he could just feel some sort of way. You never know how players are going to take it. There's a lot of restructures going on, but restructures, I think, with players only work if they completely believe in the system and the plan and they love where they're at. I feel like Gabe might be that guy, but you never know. Someone else might need a guard. You know, we've seen guys like Kelechi Osemele ended up places. Of course, he went to the Jets, but ended up places like the Chiefs, things like that. Hope he doesn't stay in the division. Let's, send him over to the NFC, if anything, like Trent Brown, get him over there, so he can go 7-9 or whatever for the rest of his career. 7-10 now, 17 games, I guess. But it's going to be interesting to see how this offensive line plays out. But I think with some of the young guys that we have on the interior, we're going to shape up just fine. It's just right tackle is our question.
Yeah, right tackle is definitely a question. I mean, the question mark is on Brandon Parker. Is Brandon Parker a guy that you can put as a starter? Look, he played well. He played better than I expected.
He played better.
Right. He played better than I expected, but it's not a guy that I can say, this is my starting right tackle. I'm ready to roll with Brandon Parker. This is my guy. I can't say it. But at the same time, like, let's look at Trent and this timeline of what went down. Like, I mean, I feel like Trent got the bag and just kind of ate the bag.
Fruit roll-ups?
I mean, dude, look, Trent, Trent got paid. He's the greatest underdog.
And he got paid.
He got paid. I mean, he was the highest paid right tackle in the league, and rightfully so. I mean, Trent played at a phenomenal rate. And when Trent was in the games, even with the Raiders, he played like the highest paid right tackle. The problem was in 16 games he played, or I'm sorry, in 32 games, he played 16.
Yeah. And not even really 16 full games. You know what I mean? Like
full games.
He was just out there, for 16 games, and a couple of them there was, the beginning of this season, he played like 3 snaps and then was out. So whatever he ended up playing at the end of the season, like 4 games or something weird. I wasn't even hardly keeping track of him. It was such a wild ride. And then towards the end of it, I felt like he was already so sick of it anyways. And he just kind of got an excuse, right? Like, don't get me wrong. We talked about it too, getting the air bubble and the IV, super serious. Getting COVID, super serious too. Like, you can't, we're not going to take those things lightly. That wasn't, really his fault. Getting COVID and not wearing his tracking device and causing other players to miss the game who didn't have COVID, that was reckless. Coming in extremely overweight, and the injuries were real. At the beginning of the season, I saw a lot of fans talking, fake an injury. Well, it wasn't fake an injury. He's actually hurt, but the reason he's hurt is because he's overweight. I mean, I put on extra 30 pounds and my knee doesn't like me a lot more with 30 more pounds. This dude, coming in like 40 pounds overweight and actually going out there trying to play a sport, a very physical sport on your legs like that. Yeah, I'm sure he is going to get hurt.
It's going to weigh on you.
But that's on literally. It's just, man, there's so many things that this guy could have controlled and didn't. And I feel like something that's kind of been, I think, overlooked now and really didn't matter anyways, but was the final game of the season where why didn't he play? Like, he just kind of had an injury. What did he just say? Oh, my knee hurts, or what was it? Ankle or something?
It was his ankle or his knee or something like that. I mean, I think that, and this is something that I talked about last week on the pod, is as a lineman, if you're hurt, you're not able to walk. You can't move. You can't move your body. I mean, we look at John Feliciano, who played with a torn pec in the Pittsburgh game and stayed in that game to make sure that the Raiders got the win. You look at Colton Miller, who played with 2 busted knees. You look at, Richie,
Gabe didn't come back 100% healthy either last year.
Right.
Too.
Gabe wasn't 100%. You look at Richie was trying to come back on his Achilles, so, Rodney hasn't been healthy since probably the 2016. So, you look at these players, you look at, kind of the things that they go through, and then you see the greatest underdog. And
greatest underdog under fraud.
Right.
Is that a word?
And look, I mean, we can make it a word. I mean, here's the thing though. We look at it, right? And we focus on what's going on. We focus on, what's happened. Where did this go south? Where did this relationship go sour? Was it when he came into camp overweight and they told him to lose weight and they could have found him and they didn't find him? Or was it when he decided that AB left and he was free and called grandma, and he decided that he wanted to go too. I mean, it doesn't make sense. But now, and then he posts a cryptic tweet, all the amount of money doesn't make you happy on God, but then make sure that he turns off his replies because he doesn't want Raider Nation hopping into his replies.
Yeah, that is funny how he says that. Whenever there was a quote, I think, talking about whenever he left New England, he wanted to stay there, but the only reason he didn't was because of the money. They couldn't pay him enough.
Right.
So
right. And then he took less money to go to New England.
To go back. And I think it was just kind of like maybe just to sort of get out of there. I don't really know. There's a certain way that the Raiders organization is being ran now. And that's, I think, more so from the Mike Mayock standpoint. I'm seeing it. He's very strict. He's very straightforward. If he's got a problem with you, he's going to tell you. If you're doing something that he doesn't like, if he wants to see more of you, if you're not meeting his expectations, he's going to be very blunt and honest. And we saw that obviously with Antonio Brown, and Antonio Brown didn't like that. Now we have that with Trent Brown. I think out of this whole process over these two divas that we've played through, the only thing I've learned is that there's no Brown like Tim Brown, and I don't think we're ever going to find another one. So I'm sticking with or Willie Brown. So I'm sticking with I guess that 24 and 81 Brown, and that's about it from now on. We signed another guy with last name Brown. I'm going to start throwing up some question marks.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's we could look at, and I know that people have been talking about some of the quote unquote bad decisions that the Gruden and Mayock regime have made in free agency, and as we go down the list, I kind of look at it as a lot of them we didn't know. We didn't know that Antonio Brown was going to be psycho. We didn't know that Trent Brown was going to have all these issues. We didn't anticipate Tyrell Williams getting hurt. We didn't anticipate LaMarcus Joyner playing out of position for. And
nobody did. When these signings happened, nobody was complaining like this. Everybody was excited. Everybody was excited. And it was a team that needed to make some big kind of not blockbuster signings, but they needed to bring in some names and build up this locker room. And they did. Unfortunately, they didn't pan out. And I think that's more so coaching. I'm not going to blame John Gruden, but I will put a lot of blame, obviously, on Paul Guenther. And
we can put a lot of blame on Guenther.
Yeah, or all the blame. I mean, unfortunately, it seems like, but
I mean, the blame for the defense definitely falls on his shoulders. I mean, when you look at the defensive players, when you look at guys that have left and that have said that Paul Guenther was, calling plays and implementing game plans and nobody knew what the hell was going on, I think that obviously falls right onto your defense coordinator. But at the same time, some of the blame does have to go on Gruden, where it's like, hey, you were running this. You saw that this was an issue. You saw in 2019 that this was an issue. And in 2020, you brought him back. And I feel like he was on a short leash. And as the season progressed, he was still on a short leash. But I feel like that Kansas City game kind of pulled his leash a little bit looser because, the Raiders won. But if you look at the play of that game, I mean, we outscored them on offense. It was a shootout, and our offense just played better. I mean, Henry Ruggs was lights out in that game. Josh Jacobs was lights out in that game. And, of course, Derek Carr played like a top 10 quarterback.
Yeah, top 5 that game, I'd say, in my opinion.
MVP, right?
It's one of those things where, I mean, you borderline put up 50 points on a team, you better freaking win the game. So I feel like he did put up a blueprint, I think, to put a lot of pressure on Patrick Mahomes. But yeah, besides that, dude, there wasn't really much. But now we're looking at some of these gaps on defense. You're talking about some of these guys leaving. You mentioned Joyner. That's a big question mark, in my opinion. What are we going to do in the slot? Yeah. I mean, gosh, Amik Robertson, I think, is a guy that has the NFL prototype slot build, but I'm not sure I quite trust him to be our week 1 starter right now in the nickel until he fully adapts. The feel that I get from some players on the team is that Amik's great. Now it's just the transition from playing outside corner full time to being his body type is being a slot guy. And it's learning that and adapting to that play style. And he could be there for all we know. I mean, all he can do is throw him out there and see what he can do. This year, he kind of, held his own, but, also gave us some big plays, was kind of lost at certain times, but that could be Guenther. So who knows? I mean, everything can change, but Kenny, what do you think about our feeling at corner? I guess I'll flip this over. I'm just going to host the rest of this podcast. I guess we're just going to keep on. It's in my nature. I've hosted too many podcasts.
You're like, let me just roll over this real quick. Now, looking at corner, I think that one of the things that we look at is Trayvon Mullen he's CB1. And I think that he's solidified his spot at CB1. I think that he had some growing pains in the sophomore season that, a lot of people started getting down on him. And I think that it was probably premature. But I think that Trayvon Mullen's going to be good. I think he's going to be all right. When we look on the other side of the ball, there's some question marks. I think that, I think Damon Arnett has the ability to be a good corner. I think he has the body type. I think he has the speed. He has the athleticism. He has the desire to hit, but that desire to hit also gets him in a lot of trouble. He's had, concussions in back-to-back games. He had a broken wrist. And I think that some of the other things that we have to look at are some of the off the field things. I saw recently he was on Twitter or Instagram in DMs going at somebody, and getting on them about a comment that they had posted on his page. And there's a question of the desire to play. We talk about it, we joke about it. He's creating a rap label. And he tweeted, because you don't see me posting my workouts every day, am I not working? And then he posts a workout and it looked like he maybe never did work out.
I'm gonna say, I understand what he's saying. Like, I think he threw something out. What do you guys want to see me brush my teeth too? And I'm, so kind of sitting there thinking in the back of my mind, like, well, if you're as committed to brushing your teeth as you were rapping, I'm sure you'd be posting your videos of yourself brushing your teeth. And the same thing kind of goes with football. Depending on where your heart is, and it's the off season, they can do what they want. I don't care.
Right.
I'm kind of speechless to this whole thing because I'm kind of wondering, like, man, maybe they'll line up and like battle rap him before they take the snap. And if he wins and shuts him down, maybe he doesn't have to run. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like, what do we do here with this training? But I'm not. I mean, that's just a stupid joke. It's one of those things where if he comes in next season and there's an improvement, then I'm not going to say anything. Like, dude, go rap. Like Darren Waller. Who cares what Darren Waller like? He's doing that all the time. Like he even, talked about it.
He's making beats on the plane after games,
getting late to the bus because he's sitting there just zoned out making beats. But in the training room and on the football field, he's also putting in equal effort and handling business, and the production's there. So who cares? Like, dude, like, that's dope. I'll listen to your music. But Damon Arnett, we didn't sign you to be a rapper. Like, we signed you. I can
tell you right now, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I can tell you right now, if Derek Carr started rapping or started, did like a Christian album, Twitter would be all up in arms and say they would question his effort, they would question his heart, they would question his desire to play, they would question everything about him because it's Derek Carr. But now we have a rookie who played a total of 5 games, had an injury, had some issues, whiffed on a play that caused us to lose the game.
Yeah.
And it seems to be not that big of a deal. So
a lot of people call Derek Pastor Carr, but like, you don't see me running around calling like Damon, like Little Arnett. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Little Arnett.
Little Arnett. You know what I mean? Like, that's
Little Deezy.
Little Deezy. Like, that's not, it's just not the nature of it, but we'll see the production. That's what it comes down to.
Wait, on the field or of the rap album?
Both, because so far the rap album hasn't been very good either. He's got to develop in that too. I'll give him some chances. That's going to take a little more experience. But yeah, man, I'm going to just kind of leave it at that until the season comes around. And if he gets burnt like over and over and he doesn't progress, then we're going to start bringing this stuff back up, and it's warranted. Questions. That's what you're paid to do. Yeah. You got to do your job at the end of the day. I don't clock in at work just to not care about it and want to, go do other things after work and spend all that money and come back to work and just keep sucking. You know what I mean? You got to build your craft at your job.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what you have to keep getting better. And I think that's what we want to see, especially as fans. We want to see is keep getting better. We want to see, this defense step it up and do, more things, get turnovers, get sacks, hit quarterbacks hard. And speaking of hitting quarterbacks hard, did you see Devin White on Twitter today talking about the time that he hit Derek Carr, his hardest NFL hit, apparently?
He's got a little resentment for the Raiders. And it's cool to have a little chip on your shoulder, whatever that tweet was whenever we went to play him, like mark the calendar, should have picked me up for, whatever that was.
Yeah, we got a date. We have a date on what's it called? And
yeah, that's cool. Like, cool, man. Like, play with that chip on your shoulder, but you just won the Super Bowl, dude. Like, who cares? And I'd
Just won
say
the Super Bowl and the Raiders are still on his mind. I mean,
Derek took that hit like pretty solid. Like, there's probably half the quarterbacks in the NFL that would have been laying out there just all knocked out. Luckily, Derek's been working out for a while and he's quite in shape, so he can take some shots like that. But
and the hit resulted in a first down because there was a flag on the play.
Yeah, exactly. And it was just kind of weird. It was kind of a weird shot at him. But Derek's, I guess, an easy target, it seems like, on Twitter nowadays. But then you go over to Instagram and Alec Ingold is pretty good too.
If you guys haven't seen that, make sure you go check out Alec Ingold's Instagram, because I think the troll level on that was 1,000. I mean, one thing I like is, players, fans on Twitter have been talking about, well, the Raiders players never stick up for Carr and nobody ever says anything. I think the players have been more vocal these past couple of years than I've seen of anybody on the team. I mean, obviously Lee Smith went off on the media, but we're seeing, Darren Waller, we're seeing Alec Ingold, we're seeing guys go in and say, look, it's not our quarterback. He's not the issue. Derek's not the problem. There's obvious things that need to be focused on. There's obvious things that we need to do. And each player is taking accountability. I think that's the biggest thing is offensively, you have a lot of players that are taking accountability. Defensively, I think that, some of the bigger name players, the Max Crosby's, the Cleve Farrells, Corey Littleton's, those are guys that are taking accountability. But I think that, right now there's not that veteran leadership on defense that is creating a culture in the locker room that everybody loves talking about. Creating a culture on the defense to take that accountability as a defense. Players are taking personal accountability, but nobody's taking ownership of that team.
Yeah, I agree. So that was kind of a two-part conversation you got there going on. I would say, I don't remember anyone sticking up for Jared Goff or Matthew Stafford or Nick Foles or Mitchell Trubisky or Carson Wentz, through all their troubles and them getting kind of dragged through the mud for everything. I don't really remember that. Raiders players are doing pretty good. And we got a good core group of guys. I mean, I'm still, even myself after this last draft, I keep saying, Matt kind of had a down year. But that doesn't take away my, I guess, confidence in him learning from little mistakes or hiccups or like a down off season and being able to capitalize this year and, kind of flip everything over and do right again. And, he's always been, high character guys. So whenever things like this happen, like Trent Brown and Antonio Brown and all these guys happen,
it blows
then
up.
They're like, they're dragging it back on him. Oh, what happened to high character? It's like, well, it's also John Gruden's team, and John Gruden's not out there like, oh, I want, I want church boys in here. I want, I want Pastor Carr and everybody in here, doing worship together. You know what I mean? Like that's not his idea. It's just, I think, Mayock's vision and they're a good 1-2 punch. They complement each other very well. At the end of the day, it's if John Gruden wants a player, John Gruden's going to get that player.
Yep.
You don't pay him, $10 million a year for 10 years to let Mayock come in here and do all the deciding factors, because ultimately it comes down to the coach. And you obviously can see that through the draft. All the draft picks, although Mayock is scouting the talent, I know Mayock has a huge piece in the draft. They're going to be drafting a lot by need, and that's a coach thing. And Mayock said that even right off the bat.
Yeah, and you can tell some of the players that Gruden is drafting. I think that, when you have a guy that's taken in the third round that played wide receiver and quarterback in college, and they want to move him to running back and make him a quote unquote joker, and then trade him before the season after, not even going through a full camp. I think those are some of the things that you look at and say, hey, John, I know that was your pick.
Yeah, that was, that we really missed that 250 total yards. And
man,
that's another guy.
16 yards against this man.
16 yards. That was crazy. I like how it was his biggest highlight of the season, and people always share it because it's funny how Raiders fans, there's one group that sticks with everybody rides with the team, like they're like the diehard Raider Nation for life. I like to, I guess, kind of put myself in that group, like whatever, I'm a Raider fan, who cares? And then there's a group that will not like Carr, and they're the realistic type, and they'll not like Carr, but then they'll overly promote like Bowden and Trent Brown and Antonio and all these like all the like the polar opposites and the players that the team hates. It's just so funny that there's not really much of an in between, and you always see them sharing videos, and Bowden's biggest highlight is some like 10-second long 7-yard play. Like, whoa, look how amazing that was. It's like you picked up 7 yards. It can't be that crazy of a play.
Well, and it's crazy because it's like I try to walk that line. I try to walk that thin line. I think that
I don't.
I obviously I know you don't. You're the president of the car stand club. And I think that, obviously, I got a ton of respect for Derek. I think that, Derek's not going anywhere. I've already said I'm not arguing about Derek Carr because it's like talking to my 2-year-old son. But
well, I guess I'll close my notes.
Yeah, close those notes. I don't want to hear that. I don't want it. But for me, it's like I don't see the point on you can criticize a player. And if Derek has a bad game, I'll criticize Derek. If, Trent Brown misses 5 games, I'm going to criticize Trent Brown. But I think that what people will see is because I'm not calling somebody out their name or disrespecting their family or disrespecting, their religion or their beliefs or what they do or how they feel or anything like that, then you're quote unquote a stan, right? Because you're not joining the toxic party. And if you call it out, well, no, it's not me being toxic. It's the Raiders have sucked for 18 years and I've earned this right. No, you haven't earned the right to talk down to anybody.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sure that you've sucked at your job. Like you want somebody to come up and be like, hey, you're an asshole. You suck. Your mom sucks. Your dad sucks. Your brother sucks. I'm going to, your brother's soft because he's defending you. Like those things, that's what gets me. It's like, if somebody did that to you, if somebody did that to your family, you'd be like, nah, it ain't working like that. But because it's somebody that you don't like, that you've already created your opinion on, then it's okay.
Yeah. We're climbing down a rabbit hole here, Kenny. We could talk about this for like 2 hours. It's almost ridiculous that's what Raider Twitter has almost separated at this point from discussing all topics and being very drama filled and really just being kind of like everything. It's almost, people try and get away from jobs and sports and teams and certain things. Not, I'm not saying like in fandom wise, but as a kid, even growing up, like you're dealing with things like I stopped playing AYSO soccer because we always said like too many politics in it. I feel like that's how Raiders Twitter is. Like it's so like political and not talking about the actual politics, but it's just like, that's the kind of affiliations that you feel. And it's just so separating. And it's just so depressing. I've been very not super plugged into social media anymore just because there's so many random people. I love the interactions that I get. A lot of people DM me all the time and talk about stuff, ask questions, and I try and get as many as possible. But it's one of those things where, man, it's just, it's so dark right now. And I can't wait for things to change. And I think that's going to start with, man, hopefully free agency now. And, you talked about getting some veterans in, especially in on the defensive side of the ball. I specifically see it in the secondary. I was really sad to see Marcus Williams getting tagged. So I'm not really sure. Does that mean kind of leave us with John Johnson? Like that's our best case scenario right now at safety. I'm really confused. I mean, Justin Simmons was obviously the top target. He got tagged. He got tagged. He's gone. I mean, we have Anthony Harris hanging around, right? He should still be hitting free agency. We got Ronald Darby that can come in. What about Ronald Darby? I've always wanted us to sign him.
I feel like
back in the slot, maybe.
I know that whatever move the Raiders make, there's going to be somebody who's upset. If the Raiders sign Melvin Ingram, then he's too old. He's injury prone. Even though he's been a guy that
Melvin Ingram, I think, is pretty much a lock, and not necessarily going to be.
Kind of has to be.
Yeah, and he's not really going to be. I'm not going to say he's going to come in here. I wish I had food that season itself.
Food's on season. I've already seasoned it. I got it marinated, but I've already. Sorry, we had a special guest come in. I had to pause it, which is actually a great time because we had an ad that came on anyway. So go ahead.
That's funny. Oh man, hopefully our defense can season itself too. Man, so
hopefully our defense can make adjustments in game like I just did on the spot. Shoot.
Oh man. So maybe they just go all in on straight leadership too, because you've been talking about it for a long time. Richard Sherman, there's Patrick Peterson around.
No, they're too
He
old.
could be a dude.
Too old.
I mean, honestly, I would still put Patrick Peterson opposite of Trayvon Mullen, but I still also would see even Patrick Peterson being so all over that he is. What if he was willing to play safety? Because I think he could be a heck of a prospect. And don't get me wrong, I love Sherman too. But just the physical specimen and the attributes that he has, just my eye test, because I'm really about that. I'm not all into the mechanics, but I can tell by watching somebody if they're physically gifted and can do multiple things. And he's really just one of those. I mean, was probably playing every single position in high school, both sides of the ball type guy in college. You know, a real Charles Woodson like skilled player that could do whatever. You can line him up and give him the ball on offense. He'd probably make a play. I think he was doing punt returns too, wasn't he?
Yeah.
At one point in his career.
He was all over the place. He was doing it all.
I think he's right in the perfect position as a veteran leader that's been around to come in, and he's played for some good defenses to come in and pair up with Jonathan Abram and could maybe be a safety option. Is it realistic? I doubt it. We probably won't even sniff his name knowing the Raiders just because that's how they are. But there's options there, I think, because I really feel like that this team and fan base, what they're missing on defense and they don't realize it. The draft is fun. We love our draft stock. It's always overvalued and we get stuck in the same spot, but we need veterans and we need leaders now.
We need it. You know, John Gruden has alluded to that alpha, that the Raiders need that alpha. And I think now is the time to get that alpha. I think that even with young guys, you have an alpha in Jonathan Abram. I think that he's going to develop into a leader. I think Max Crosby will develop into a leader. I think Clee develops into a leader. You still need that veteran presence. And I think that adding somebody like a Peterson, like a John Johnson, like a Richard Sherman, while, you know, Peterson or Sherman may not be a sexy pick, it's that leadership pick. And I know that, you know, nobody wants the quote unquote old guy because they saw it with Jason Witten. I think that these guys are still at a different, they're at a different spot in their career than Jason Witten was. Jason Witten, you know, had come
out of retirement.
Yeah, he came out of retirement. He came out of the booth and he was like, I'm going to give it one more go. And what he did in the locker room was great. I think that he was a good
Speaking
coach.
of that, though, Kyle Long coming out of retirement now.
Dude.
Could that be our option?
I think Kyle Long could be a great
I got
option.
his jersey right here. Kyle Long, number 75. Sorry, Brandon Parker.
Brandon Parker would have to come out that jersey.
He would have to Kyle so Long, quick.
I think it would be a good move. You bring him out of retirement. He comes, plays for 1 year, 2 years, maybe in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. You retire as a Raider. Or you retire with the Raiders. That. He wouldn't retire as a Raider, but he retires with the Raiders.
Yeah.
And you kind of you close a circle of life.
Yeah.
You know, imagine Howie and Kyle standing on the sideline, both rocking that silver and black. I mean, you got Howie, you know, wearing his black polo and his flat top, and you got Kyle out there coming off the field after the Raiders just clinched the playoff win.
If I'm mistaken, last time the Raiders were a Super Bowl winning team was whenever Long was on the roster.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what we've been missing. Maybe that's why we're cursed.
We need a Long.
We've waited a long time.
It's been too long.
Too long. Long enough.
Dude, this could go on for a long time.
Yeah.
But no, Cody,
it's not going to go on any longer.
Hey, man, look. We could keep going and it could go long.
Yeah.
But it's gone on too long. Brother, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
Appreciate you. I know that we're going to get on this weekend, talk a little bit about free agency, talk about what the Raiders' targets are, dive deep into it. So I look forward to it. But until then, Cody,
a little warm up. You ready?
Give the listeners something to fire them up, man.
Dude, are you going to make me close out like you used to close out for Real Talk? Let's see. Raider Nation, let me tell you, I've been down this offseason. And if you're watching this and you're kind of just, you know, scrounging for a little hope, I'm right there with you. The last couple months, thinking on this football team, there's a lot that we invest in as fans. And the passion, it just flows through us. There's nothing that we can do. And with passion, there's always the highs that you could ride and just have a great time. And then every time, just like this last season ended in disappointment, it's okay to be frustrated. Totally is. It's hard to get mad either direction of this whole situation. But one thing that we can still look at is continuity. And things are going to look a lot better this season when we can finally get into Allegiant Stadium, because that's what we're missing as fans. Yeah, last season sucked. It would have sucked a little bit less if we could have did what we always do and get in there, tailgate, hang out with Raider Nation, real human interaction, because this fan base is family. And that's not family that just talks on the internet all the time. It's family. I mean, some of you are. I'm sure, you live your fandom through, if you're so far away, YouTube and Twitter, and that's awesome. But the majority of this fan base likes to be able to, get together when they can and have a good time. And that's what I'm looking forward to the most in 2021. Obviously, with my guy, Kenny King Jr., we're going to be connecting quite a bit. And Raider Nation, I think it's just time where we look at John Gruden and Mike Mayock, and this is make or break for them. There's they're on the chopping block in a way, I guess you could say. It's a prove it year for them. It was a prove it year for Derek Carr, and I feel like he's made improvements. I feel like it's a prove it year now for this entire John Gruden regime right now. So, I mean, I say it almost every year, but I don't know what I'd do if the Raiders didn't make the playoffs this year. That's about kind of how confident I am. And I think it's going to be exciting. Buckle up. We made some surprising cuts, and there's going to be more. There's going to be surprising maybe trades. There's going to be surprising signings. So get excited, sit back, relax, enjoy it, buy yourself a new Raider hat, and subscribe to this channel and podcast, Kenny King Jr.
Boom.